So with Spider-Man PS4, there was a lot of things Insomniac did that changed Spider-Man gaming, such as having the ability to select costumes on the fly and photo mode. However, there were a few things in that game that seemed like they weren't given their all. And with Miles Morales set to release towards the end of the year, I don't expect much change from the previous game since this isn't a fully developed sequel, but I do hope there are improvements from the first game. In today's video, I wanted to share my top 5 features that must be added into Spider-Man Miles Morales or what needs to be fixed, which I think would improve upon the previous game and fix some of the problems I have with the first game. And despite that game being great, it's not perfect, and if you think that, then well, I just feel bad for you. With new technology should come improvements and feedback on what didn't work in the previous game, and with that, I like to share the 5 things I want to see added or improved in Miles Morales, and I hope you enjoy. The first thing I'd like to see improved in Spider-Man Miles Morales is something I think we can all agree on: the wall crawling. The wall crawling in Spider-Man PS4 is awful, and I have a feeling it wasn't going to be that great since wall running became a thing, and I honestly can't remember the last time I tried climbing up a building to get to the top. The wall run system works well, but there's points throughout the gameplay where Spider-Man is incapable of climbing in easy to climb areas, and personally for the next game, I'd like to see a wall crawling system similar to Spider-Man 2's. In my opinion, that is the best wall crawling system, with the player having the ability to sprint, and while wall running was present in Spider-Man 2, it wasn't the primary mode of getting up walls, and that's how it should become next game. The wall crawling needs to be improved. Next, the second improvement I'd like to see in Miles Morales PS5 is replayable levels, expanding upon the New Game Plus seen in the first game. New Game Plus is cool and something that hasn't been in Spider-Man games since Web of Shadows, I believe, but personally I prefer the option to replay any part of the story instead of having to replay the entire thing again just to get to one story point. You can have both. There can be New Game Plus and replayable levels, and I feel like replayable levels was something that was missing from the first game. There's great moments throughout the game such as the boss fights, and I'd like to be able to jump into that moment at any time after completing the level. If TASM 2 can do replayable levels, there's no reason why the superior Spider-Man game can't. New Game Plus is alright, but I prefer to play any point in the story at any time. Next, the third improvement I'd like to see in Spider-Man Miles Morales is one that I don't see happening considering it isn't a proper sequel, but it would be amazing to have the ability to enter buildings. I say this won't happen in Miles Morales considering it isn't a full-on sequel, and I think this is something that Insomniac would rather say for Spider-Man PS5. Basically market that this New York is different from what you played before. This is another thing that was missing from the great map Insomniac gave players in the first game. Of all the buildings in New York, there's only 2 the player can go into, and it requires a loading screen. One advantage Spider-Man 2 and 3 New Yorks had over this game is that you can go into certain buildings freely, and there's no reason why a game coming out on over 10-year plus software can't do that. I would love to be able to go in certain buildings as Easter eggs in the first, such as Peter or MJ's apartment and maybe even the Osborn mansion, and it would be nice to potentially fight crime or free roam in New York with enterable buildings. This isn't a big deal compared to the previous 2 for me, but I think this would drastically improve the free roaming experience. The fourth improvement I'd like to see in Miles Morales PS5 is more crimes or activities available after completing the game 100%. Now, once you 100% the game in Spider-Man PS4, the crimes are about the same, happening at random times, but I feel like that gets easily repetitive, especially when there's a gang on a rooftop and it's easy as hell to concussion blast them off the roof and be done with the crime in seconds. In Miles Morales, I'd like to see something like races or photo challenges available on multiple levels. Just thinking about it, there's only like 5 Taskmaster challenges to replay in the first game, and in a game like Ultimate Spider-Man, there was races through days throughout the city, even challenging the player to get different medals each race. Even in the first game, people thought players could play basketball, and it turns out you can just take photo mode pictures and act like you're playing basketball. How cool would it be to play basketball or another sport in Spider-Man Miles Morales as a minigame similar to GTA San Andreas? So basically, I'd like to see an expansion on what to do post 100% completion, whether it be photo mode challenges, races, Taskmaster challenges, and more variety in the crimes. That way they don't get so repetitive. And finally, the fifth thing I'd like to see improved upon in Spider-Man Miles Morales is a proper day and night cycle. So what Spider-Man PS4 did was kind of new for the time, as it gave players the ability to choose which time of day they want to play in. One thing I miss about the older Spider-Man games is the day and night cycle. I just feel like it adds to the realism of the world, and a player who's just free roaming can have their own sort of day in the life story going if they felt like it. And just imagine how beautiful it would be to witness the snowy New York in Spider-Man PS5 transition from day to night on the PS5 hardware. If you want to see a sunset or anything like that in Spider-Man PS4, it's through a loading screen. Come on. However, if we don't get this cycle come next game, I'd like to have the ability to change the weather, something players couldn't do in the first game, which would be cool with the features added for this game, especially choosing the type of snow. So there you have it, the 5 improvements or changes I want to see in Spider-Man PS5 Miles Morales. Let me know what you guys think and what's your favorite improvement I suggested in this video, and what changes would you like to bring to the next game compared to what was seen in Spider-Man PS4. Also, shout out to Michael Ramos because he wanted a cameo in this video. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, follow my social medias, and I will see you guys again in my next video.